is my pleasure to present today the last but not least lecture of the lecture series of this semester. And this is a live, half live. I have here the full room, and the other half or more are online. So it is my pleasure to present today, as I said, the last but not least lecture with pre-doctoral teaching fellows coming from the School of Architecture of Madrid. So as you know, we have an agreement with the School of Architecture that we do this relationship between our school and the School of Madrid, in which every semester, 2 excellent designers, teaching fellows come to the school. And this is always a motivation for celebration. And this cannot be less because we have COVID. So we are, even if it's at the end of, almost at the end of the semester, we're looking forward to listen to your work. Guillermo Lockhart is graduate architect from University of Uruguay. He earned his master's degree in advanced architectural design also at ETSAM, Madrid, and where he is also PhD candidate along with Andrea in Madrid. His professional activity is around residential program and affordable housing. And his research is on the spaces of creation, taking case study around the moment of Andy Warhol in New York. So both have these 3 legs of teaching in process of getting more and more experience in teaching, the PhD and the professional activity. So today the intention is to present themselves at the school in these different areas and activities. So students and I, faculty, everyone get to know them better. So please join me welcoming Andrea and Guillermo to the School of Architecture, even if it's at the end of the semester and we have been crossing all in the corridors, etc. But we are really pleased to be able to listen to you, to your work.
Hello. Well, first I want to thank Iñaki and Margarita for this excitement and this incredible opportunity of being here, all their help and guidance. I want to thank also the School of Architecture for their warm welcome and their hospitality, and of course, the students for this amazing semester. I want to start explaining very briefly about the title of this lecture that's called Alternative Pragmatism. So you'll find that these combinations of words, although I find them very interesting, it's more they represent more of a problem than a clear concept. In this way, in this sense, I have chosen the word alternative, even though when someone says alternative, it begs the question to alternative to what? Someone alternative could be others normative. So I was telling you that I have also have chosen this word pragmatic, trying to stay away from the philosophical considerations and only to address the quality of the ordinary and the value of overcoming practical constraints as possible. My professional practice, my research, and my teaching is consciously or unconsciously focused on 3 different topics that are often, if not always, overlapping each other. The first one is what I call updating home. It means that I think that there is a lot of functions that have been superimposed over the spaces of the home, and strikingly, its architecture continued to remain the same. Also, the creative workspace, and this concept means that traditionally the workspace has been a burden for organizations and companies, and now they acquire a new dimension when it's proven that these workspaces can acquire a new dimension, improving the creativity of their users. And the third one is social engagement, thinking about that in scarce context, the development of different projects can be in themselves valuable material. So I have started my professional practice founding a merger between a traditional architectural firm and a small experimental construction company, what I call construction studio. This construction studio had created a design and construction team formed with different carpenters, plumbers, electricians, civil engineers, landscape architects, and so on, that started working from the very beginning of each project with having in mind different construction systems and budget. So you will see that in all of my projects from the very beginning, there's a focus on the construction. So this work system, of course, tends to focus on a close relationship to the craftsmanship and also in the use of both natural and industrial materials. But it also led to a simplification of the architectural form. So we can see here different projects that I've been working on, and you will see that primary form is repeating in all of them. So I'm going to start with this concept that I was telling you briefly about updating home, and I wanted to start with this painting by the painter Nicola Iseman that I think reflects pretty good what a home would be like today. Here we can see different characters, different people with undetermined age, ethnicity, gender, and so on. They are all drinking, resting, partying, playing with their cell phones, and so on. So I think that the medium this painter is using is ambiguous, and in that sense, it relates very good to what the atmosphere of the home is nowadays. So there have been a lot of social, cultural, and economic phenomena that have been affected the home recently. For example, the increase in the size of family, or the impossibility of access to young people to affordable housing. So in that sense, I'm presenting this ongoing project of affordable housing in Uruguay. This is the plot that you can see. It's in a suburban but consolidated area, and it has in front of it a really big park, and at the back of it a lake. Incredible, this plot was really inexpensive because it had previously an electrical transformer in front of it, so buyers were scared that it could be, they were frightened because they were worried about their health, and if not, all the paperwork they would need to do to change the place of this electrical transformer. So we found a group of people that were interested in buying affordable housing, most of them single people or couples of 1 or 2 children. And with a group of financial advisors and lawyers, we created a company with the only purpose of constructing this project. They bought the plot that, as I was saying, it was really inexpensive. And through the brand new promoted housing law in Uruguay, we created what we thought it could be affordable, environmentally friendly, quality housing in a consolidated area of the city. This would be the traditional equation in this kind of development, and so we try to eliminate the developer and real estate margin to create a price that for the people that would only be the plot cost and the construction cost. So the regulations in this plot, we pretty soon found out that permitted us to construct much more than we desired. So we adapted the project into 2 level affordable housing. And because we really thought that having only 2 levels would permit the people to have a close relationship to nature, to the surrounding nature that was, of course, the park at the east and the lake at the west. Also, it was a much better fit within the context. So this is finally the final image we presented to the users. And here we can see the project has a collective courtyard, have a bonfire area, vegetable gardens, access, of course, to the lake, and a multi-purpose room for all of them. As I was saying, and I was telling you about this design and construction team from the preliminary stages in this project, we draw these structural, sanitary, and electrical plans, even with some details, because we are already thinking about construction. Also, this work system is also related to our plan. The idea of the project, the main strategy was to use non-hierarchical rooms that could be used for bedrooms, could be used for playrooms, could be used for study rooms, even bigger, really huge dressing rooms, for example. And the general scheme of the project would be the rooms, then a strip for circulation, and then a strip for wet areas. That would be the kitchen, bathrooms, laundry room, and they're all connected to interior courtyard. This is the plan and an action of one of the units. There you can see that each unit has a collective front yard, but at the same time a private garden. And in this case, the unit is using 2 of the rooms as bedrooms and one of them as a desk. Here are some of images of the project that's ongoing. The second aspect I was telling you about is about the creative workspace. So I think that architecture is made by the relation between the architect and the users, pretty similar to what Roland Barthes states in his book, The Death of the Author, and the relationship between the author and the reader. I think that as architects, we need to be aware of the creativity of the users, and that we need to think that the users can somehow change and add new meanings to the spaces that we create. So that's why in my PhD, I continue with this research, and I start studying these art studios, mainly focusing on Krasner and Pollock's studio, Barn Studio in the Hamptons, the Silver Factory Loft by Andy Warhol in Manhattan, and the French artist Daniel Buren, who claims he doesn't have a studio, that his studio is in the street. Through an exhaustive studying of films, photographs, and other documentation, I came up with original plans for these studios, just to find out what were the design strategies that these artists were using to increase their creativity. In this case, I'm showing now the ones I found in the Silver Factory between 1964 and 1968, that were design strategies that were used by Andy Warhol, but also by their assistant, Billy Lineage. So here you can see that all of these artworks were created during these 4 years. We have painting, sculpture, film, music, and so on, and was all within the frame of this specific space, and all within the frame of these design strategies: appropriation, reprogramming, the unfinished, the central void, artificial isotropy, and domesticated production and productive domesticity. So these design strategies are, of course, the main objective is to use them in real projects. So this was the case when a really young company wanted to move their workspace, and they found a really old industrial warehouse in the center of the city. Of course, the budget was really low, so the main strategy was to focus on the collective workspace, trying to have a non-hierarchical workspace, but at the same time being careful about the relation between privacy and autonomy. In that sense, we used two main tools. One was color. We used black and white, that were the colors that the company used in their logo. And also we used a really cheap compensated wood to kind of vinculate the space with domesticity. This professional practice and research is represented in some publications, in books, and in different journals. And the third concept I wanted to present was this is social engagement. And I want to present this project that's called America Sport and Social Club for Children. That was a project that was born from the necessity of relocating this club that was illegally occupying public land, and at the same time it was very precarious and also had problem with flooding. So we contact a private company, and we contact local authorities, and we managed to move this club to a park that was nearby. This was a really important decision because the club was rooted in its neighborhood. There were more than 200 families that were related to the club, and there were children between 6 and 13 years old that were in pretty close contact with the club. So we started a participatory process with different workshops with the help of a psychologist, and we have different steps to try to listen and try to use this concept that I was telling you about before, the creativity of the users. So this was all represented in a documentary that was aired in the national TV. And the same as the other projects before, we had a really low budget, and really all of the money was going to the construction of the fields, of the soccer fields. That was kind of the most important aspect of the project. So we need to came up with a really inexpensive way of building the club. So we found that there was these prefabricated panels that are usually used for cold meat chambers, and we can add some termination in both sides. And this was a really inexpensive, really fast, really easy to transport panels that would make the building of this project really fast. So this is the general plan. It's really basic. It's all modulated with these prefabricated panels. It has a kitchen and an open barbecue that is used by the club to sell food and drinks during the games. And then it has 2 locker rooms and bathrooms. The main idea, probably the only architectural idea we could use, was to have this open but covered space in the middle that was trying to emulate the tunnels of the of the professional soccer stadiums, and at the same time it was a covered space that could be used as an extension of the multi-purpose room. So this was the final idea, the final image we presented to the children and the parents. We also, during these workshops, during the participation process, we hired a visual designer to create with the children different signals, different ways of communicating, and for the children to feel identified with the club. And this was the final inauguration. From the morning to night, there were more than 1,000 people enjoying how children play soccer. So it's very gratifying to see the identification and the involvement of all these families with the club that are always doing tasks and chores of maintenance to keep the club alive. So as I was saying previously, the title Alternative Pragmatism in any way tries to define a way of working or a perimeter with which one should work. I think that creativity in architecture is trying to adapt to new surroundings and to create new frameworks. So the surrounding context is the common place for the people who have nothing in common. So let us devote our time to link our private ambitions with the public needs, doing and having a social responsibility through collaboration and through building only the essential. Thank you very much.